It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley. As we begin a Wednesday, Gary, what's happening?
Well, comparatively, like for the last 2 weeks, yesterday was a slow news day. And you know how I know? Just some of the headlines on the front page of Fox News. All right?
Yeah.
And this wasn't about somebody who was threatening to leave, some Hollywood star that was threatening to leave the United States because of Trump. Mm-hmm. It's a story where Star Wars actor Mark Hamill reveals he thought about leaving the United States when Trump won re-election, but he didn't. So the fact that he thought about it became a huge story, but his wife talked him out of it. But it wasn't that he was going to leave or left or threatened to leave. It's the fact that he didn't leave when he thought he might leave. And then I thought to myself, at the next Democratic National Convention, will Mark Hamill lead the booing of the force?
Well, and I thought, look, if it's notable to think about something, I went beyond that. I actually bought the P90X DVDs. Not only did I think about it, I acted on it, but it's so much easier to lay on the couch. But I did think about it.
So that was the first story. And I just went, so the story is he was thinking of leaving but didn't leave.
Yeah.
And that deserves front page on the Fox News. And I went, okay. It's a slow news day, comparatively speaking, over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, there were still a lot of stories out there. Mm-hmm. But when you start filling in the front page of Fox News with that, I didn't even check to see if there was bikini stuff.
Yeah.
I never got to see if they had, and this Hollywood actress is in a bikini. Oh, thank God. Because right underneath the economic situation of the United States, I wanted to see what Hollywood starlet is in a bikini.
At 90, she's still donning a bikini. And I'm like, we don't need to know that. We can stop doing that. In fact, take the pictures down right now.
All right. So
yeah,
I'm with my great nephew the other day. Mm-hmm. All right. And we're driving. And he said something to me. He said, well, you wouldn't know because you're never on the internet. I said, what do you mean? I'm in the internet 24/7. What are you talking about? I said, do you still understand what I do for a living? And I said, I'm always on the internet. He goes, well, not Instagram and TikTok. And he said, and I said, I'm not on TikTok. I said, I'm only on Instagram actually to follow you because you put some of your basketball stuff on there. Mm-hmm. That's the only reason I'm there. In fact, I said, I'm always shocked. I told him I'm always shocked. I said, because whenever I hit my, the search for Instagram,
right?
Because I don't pay attention to it at all. And I go there and I'm like, what is this, soft porn? I said, there's all these 60-year-old women in bikinis. And my great nephew went, oh, Uncle Gary, that's disgusting.
Yeah.
But somehow, what, do the bots figure out my age?
Yeah, I guess so.
Do they somehow figure out my age?
Do they? I know on some of them when you sign up, even if you don't post it publicly, you tell them how old you are. You tell them, your birthday. It's part of the confirmation process, I guess.
Oh,
okay. Or whatever. And then that's then all of a sudden you start getting things that are age appropriate.
I'm just
or age inappropriate.
But
they're age appropriate, but also inappropriate.
But I was thinking to myself, I said, if I'm just on my phone and I hit the search, and is this what you do on the internet all day, Gary? I had nothing to do with this.
Yeah.
I'm never on it.
Well, that's why retiring, there's not a chance. No. No. Because, like I'm always doing a couple of things, around the house right now, kind of reconfiguring things for our fall planting for the vegetable garden and everything else. Based on what my wife needs out there and the whole thing, just kind of doing what I can to help out. And those are things that could keep me busy, for like a couple of hours a day, maybe. but then it's sitting down. I don't want to turn the TV on ever. If I turn the TV on now, it's because it's movie night. My wife and I are going to watch something, which is kind of rare these days, once every couple of months. Or I'm watching stuff, streaming stuff that pertains to the work that we do. And there's lots of great stuff on YouTube that you can find that pertains to, what we're doing. And occasionally I'll, watch a documentary or something when I take a break. But I can't sit there all day. I can't imagine being retired and just sitting around all day looking at my phone because I'm going to be doing the same thing basically.
I look at my phone all day.
And I'm going to be, then there's no place to go with it,
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to be looking at that all day.
And I'm not going to do a rant on Facebook,
No.
I'm rarely on Facebook.
So then the next story. Mm-hmm. This is how I knew it was a slow news day.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, you got to be kidding me. This is on Fox. Front page. Virginia. Excuse me, that's the wrong one here. Where to go? I'm looking at the wrong one here. Let me make sure I get it. Here it is. Because this is a kind of clickbait that caught my eye.
Right.
Omen or harbinger of doom. Fox News explores the chilling mystery that turned a small town into a spectacle. A half a century after eyewitnesses first reported a red-eyed creature that kept pace with their cars at speeds of 100 miles per hour, thousands still flocked to Point Pleasant, West Virginia, hoping to catch a glimpse of the mystery known as the Mothman.
It's back.
I'm like, no, stop it.
Well, don't they have their Mothman Festival every year?
Yes. I mean, the Mothman.
So are they getting close to the festival? Is that coming up or something? Or are they trying to?
No, it's the 50th anniversary of the sightings, apparently.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I missed that.
And it's like that enduring sense of mystery. Fox's Abby Hornacek noted is what makes the Mothman story so chilling. Now, great movie.
No, I mean, if you want to watch a good
movie.
Spooky movie,
Yeah, it's a good
and
spooky
also
movie.
some pretty good acting, not just Richard Gere, but I think some of the other actors.
What's that, Laura Linney?
Yeah, I think it's a good movie.
Yeah. But it's like, I'm just like,
well, no,
all
there's all kinds of documentaries on it too. I had to watch like a few minutes of one because I'm like, all right, okay, and then what you'll have is. They'll have somebody from like a university come out and go, well, there are birds that might look like, because if you've ever seen, if you've ever been in the dark in the woods and a little bit of light hits the eyes of an animal, it can be spooky. It looks like, their eyes are green or red or whatever. And the Mothman apparently has red glowing eyes. Well, all right. And then by some descriptions, it's got human-like legs. Well, if you watch like a bald eagle come down to the water to grab a fish and it extends its legs out, it looks pretty wild. It doesn't look like what you think. It looks like those could be human legs. And they've got a wingspan of, I don't know, roughly 6 feet, right? And so you see all of this stuff about the Mothman. I guess it keeps people busy. And if you're going to have like a festival, then certainly you want to get people worked up about it, right?
But, and they have, the festival goes on every year. The movie was actually not the Mothman Prophecies. I want to make sure I get that out right. And Will Patton was fantastic.
Oh, Will Patton.
He was great in that movie.
That changed for he was always a great actor anyway, but that one, he just was full on great. I mean, it was wild. It's definitely worth a view.
So the questions that came up for me then is the new movie coming out, Mega Mothman.
Oh, yeah.
And will Mark Hamill get the Democrats to boo the Force? Because the Force is like a deity, right?
I don't know what the force
An
is.
energy or deity, whatever.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
they kept
think
it pretty.
it's-
They
it's
kept
like
it pretty vague. But if they booed God, they booed the force. But
Yeah.
that's the thing that caught my. When I woke up, that's what happened. I was like going to Fox News. Okay, what's on the front page? And I went, Mothman. Mark Hamill thought about leaving. Come on, must be
Yeah.
a slow news day.
Yeah.
But this was the Wall Street Journal had that article that seemed to stay under the radar that apparently there's not going to be an Elon Musk third party.
Well, you and I kind of asked that question a couple of weeks ago, saying, what about the America Party? Then we took a look at where they are. It only has it's on X. They have their own X page, of course. But it only has 1 million followers. And I thought, all right, maybe it'll do something more. But it lists itself as a PAC, Political Action Committee. So I don't think that was ever going to happen. I think, again, it was one of those emotional outbursts that Elon Musk has now become famous for. You don't need to do that. Just stick to what you do.
Elon Musk pledged to start a political party. He's already pumping the brakes. The billionaire has sought to maintain ties with J.D. Vance, a potential heir to the Trump MAGA political movement. So quietly pumping the brakes on his plans, Musk told allies he wants to focus his attention on his companies and is reluctant to alienate powerful Republicans by starting a third party that could siphon off GOP voters. This story, about 2 weeks ago, there was a story that I forgot who had the story that also indicated that same thing.
Yeah.
Remember, we did a story.
Yeah.
And it says his posture marks a shift from earlier last month when he said he would form what he called the America Party to represent U.S. voters that are unhappy with the two major political parties. Well, the thing is, you've got the Republican Party that's moved further left. And then you don't need a no labels party because everything I've heard from the last couple of days is that all the Democrat consultants are saying the Democratic Party doesn't stand for anything anymore. What do they stand for? And I went, oh, all right.
Yeah.
They filled in for the no labels party that didn't stand for anything.
Exactly.
So now the no labels party, it makes it tough. The Democrats have made it tough for a third party that believes in nothing to gain any type of hold in the United States.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, look, it was never going to happen with the America Party. And I don't know how active Elon Musk will be in the future, but I think there was probably a very serious conversation between the board of directors at Tesla and Elon Musk, and also the very realization that you need to stick to what you do. Not that he didn't have an impact in 24. There was some impact. I can't measure that, but there was some impact. But after the fallout, the emotional outburst, you can't risk that if you are basically the face and founder of that publicly traded company. You risk a lot for that company and everything you've created. Just do what you do. And I think it applies to his other companies as well. And we'll see how, he might be a donor, maybe in the future, but we'll see. I just don't see it going very far. I think that when Doge didn't fly, I think that was it.
Yeah, I mean, that was when Doge didn't fly and the promises were not met.
Yeah.
At that point, as we said, Doge is dead, and the topic of, and by the way, we're not happy with this. Don't think that we're approving of this in any way, but it was really probably the final nail in the coffin for either political party really caring about the debt at all.
Yep, it was.
And one of the reasons is, I mean, they dropped, if you notice it, Doge is gone. For all the hype and hoopla that came from the administration. Mm-hmm. Remember Caroline Levitt out there every single day promoting what was being cut?
Yeah.
And then as we find out, whether, you look at everything that has gone on and all the cuts, the debt's still up $100 billion over the deficit up $100 billion in July. We still have a couple of more months left, but $100 billion more than it was in in fiscal 2024. And there's been no political blowback to that.
No.
The numbers haven't changed at all for Republicans.
No.
And we said Republicans, and I'm not talking about our audience and not talking about us, but deficit reduction in the Republican Party is dead.
Yep.
The party itself doesn't care.
Nope.
They may say they care. We'll probably get some blowback. Oh, yes, we do. And we're going to shut up.
No, it's
You don't care.
They don't.
Yeah.
You know, in key moments, they'll pretend to care, as you mentioned, and that's it. That's as far as they want to go.
Once you got the budget passed and people like Chip Royce said, well, we have promises from the president for future executive orders, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
You have no interest in cutting the debt.
Nope.
Both parties have now agreed, maybe the Republican Party to a lesser degree in spending than the Democratic Party, but the fact is neither cares about doing the most immoral thing that we do in our society, which is put what we want today on the backs of our children, our grandchildren, and our great-grandchildren.
Yep. And too many of the rank and file on the right don't care.
Nope.
Again, our audience, we understand you do, but a growing number of Republicans, and it's the majority. Otherwise, if the majority rank and file did care, we would have seen something come of Doge. There would have been something that happened, but sorry, there's no concern for it long term. And again, we're doomed.
Well, because of that or the Mothman.
All of it.
866-90-RED-EYE.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. Keep your engine humming in the heat this summer by keeping up with preventive maintenance. Think your PM is complete after your oil is changed? Think again. There's grease, transmission fluids, and gear oil to consider too. Transmission fluid, for example, prevents wear of gears, bearings, and bushings, protects against corrosion, and acts as a heat transfer fluid. You may not think about this every time you get behind the wheel, but as soon as it's not doing its job, you'll notice. Misapplication of transmission fluid can mean reduced fuel economy and abrupt or hard shifts if the static friction is too high. It can also cause sluggish operation at low temperatures if the viscosity is too high and leaking through seals if viscosity is too low.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
We are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Well, let's start out the show with our Senator John Kennedy audio cut of the day.
All right.
He was on News Nation and was asked the question, are Republicans having fun these days because of the insanity of the Democrats? All right, here's his response.
I wouldn't describe it as fun. I enjoy my job, but I'm not sure that fun is the right term. I think we're winning more than we're losing. Some of that is due to Republicans, but a lot of it, as you pointed out, Leland, is due to Democrats. As I've said before, you never interfere with your opponent when he's kicking his own ass.
Senator John Kennedy never disappoints.
I know.
I love it.
I know.
I love that.
I couldn't wait to play it later. I'm just like, no, I got to play it now.
Yeah, we got to play that. We'll play. We got to play that again.
It puts us in the proper mood.
Yeah, exactly.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
We are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Welcome, and thanks for being here this morning. Did you see, this was in American Greatness, and it was Steve Cortez wrote in an op-ed piece. Now, Steve Cortez, for people who don't know, you might remember him when he was on CNN. I think he was on CNN for a while. Was he also on, I guess he was on Fox once in a while, too. But he was a Trump consultant, Trump advisor for the longest time. And inflation economy memo to Washington Republicans. The GOP owns the economy and voters are furious. Wake up, act fast, or the anger at the checkout line turns into political pain at the ballot box. Hey, Washington GOP, you're asleep at the wheel on the economy. Wake up now. The economy is the central issue, and you're losing it. The producer price index inflation just spiked to 3.3%, with core PPI having the biggest jump since March of 2022, when Biden's inflation crisis was surging at its worst levels. Prices are still way too high, and families feel it every day, including at the grocery store. Yes, the torrid pace of Biden's inflation has slowed, but consider these punishing realities. Chuck ground beef at $6.34 a pound, setting an all-time record for each of the last 6 months. Chicken prices also are at all-time highs. Banana prices are setting records, too. This erosion of buying power flows largely from an embattled U.S. dollar. Bitcoin has rocketed past 117,000 per coin. Gold is at record high. The euro has had a stellar 2025 versus the American dollar. It's erosion, and voters see it and live it every day. And then he talked about the fact, but there's great news to tell, especially with Trump's trade wins. Moreover, foreign investment pours into America, but guess what? No one is telling that story. The legacy media won't touch it. New media giants, Megyn Kelly, Joe Rogan, Tucker Carlson, Sean Ryan, and Ben Shapiro all have massive reach, but they don't get economics, so they all stick to cultural issues. I'll let that sink in for a moment with you, which means voters do not hear the good news, but they do live the harsh reality of sticker shock at the grocery store and elsewhere. So it is imperative that the GOP get busy and stop using insulting arguments like, it's not as bad as under Biden. That loser talk sounds exactly like the Democrats claiming that cities like D.C. aren't dangerous just because of the mayhem now isn't as awful as in the 2020 BLM riots. People are angry at the economy, and the GOP now owns the unrest, fair or not. My latest polling of swing states, Georgia, proves the point. We surveyed nearly 3,000 registered voters in this key state using respective pollster tip insights. It was mostly good news. For example, the GOP is +2 on the generic midterm ballot. The GOP is net favorable by 3% in Georgia versus -10 for the Democrats. The Democrat brand implodes among among independents in Georgia at -23%. Voters love the GOP on security issues, from the border to street crime. Georgia voters remain solidly behind President Trump's massive deportation agenda by a wide +19% margin. But on the economy, it's awful. The GOP gets the blame now. Only 23% of Georgia voters believe that the big, beautiful bill will help their finances. The giant bill was great for the wealthy, but working class people hate it. Only 33% of young voters say their economic confidence is better since the 2024 election. 62% say it's worse. On inflation, the letter grades for the Trump administration, independents, 48% give it a D or an F. Only 28% give it an A or a B. Women, 48% give it a D and an F, and they do most of the shopping and bill paying. So what do you do? All right. That's the key thing. What do you do, right? If that's all your beliefs there. Launch a full media campaign right now. Stop coasting. Even friendly media won't save you. Stage events on onshoring wins and immigration triumphs. Talk up wages in print and video. Where are the economic media surrogates? Most of all, absolutely do not tell people it's fine, because clearly it is not right now, not for the working masses. Tariff rebate checks. President Trump floated the idea. Do it now. Quarterly checks to working families. Give the middle class something that they've never had before. Skin in the global trade game and a seat at the table. Make trade victories personal. New taxes on remittances. Hike them hard. Raise revenue and discourage foreign workers. Encourage more financial deportations, as Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent smartly calls such policies. Phase out worker visas. AI is wiping out jobs right now. Stop importing millions of new legal workers. Shut it down. Prioritize Americans. Bottom line, Americans are still angry, still anxious for good reason. Respect them. Listen to them. You cannot chart them into optimism. Show them the fight. Show them the path out. And prove it with action, action, action. Put America first or lose. Now, what didn't he cover there at all? What don't any of those so-called solutions do? Lower prices.
Well, it's something we've talked about from the beginning, and that is, whether you believe it's reasonable or not, coming into the second term for President Trump, people wanted prices to come down. Now, the history of inflation tells us that that's not going to happen. With few exceptions, that's not going to happen. Because the target rate for inflation is 2%, which means prices will still go up at best, in good times, 2% from where they are now. It is a compounding effect. So in pricing, you're not going to win that. Where you win is, again, creating a situation where business is booming and people are, or companies are competing for people. Wages are skyrocketing. We haven't seen that. I don't know about,
Well, where he just said wages are wages are up. Wages are up 1.2% over the last year. They're not keeping up with inflation.
That's not skyrocketing, right. And it's not even. Yeah, right. It's not keeping up with inflation.
Let me make sure I got it right. What he said here. He was making the case that wages is fine, but
that's not the case if they're not keeping up with inflation.
It's not. Well, we just got it. Right.
It was a week ago.
Last week. Yeah. It's not. So, that's a problem. The wholesale prices, we'll see how that goes. And, we said before, whether none of what he talks about brings prices down. Forget about what you think about it, what you think, because we've talked about before when you put tariffs on countries that are involved in unfair trading practices, it's fine. But you've got to explain to the American people, in order to make them trade fairly, you're going to have to feel some pain for a while. The president actually said you're going to feel some pain. Mm-hmm. He has said you'll feel some pain at the same time, saying it's wonderful. I think one of the worst things that the Republicans are doing is promoting the fact of the money that they're raising, because every conservative knows where that money's coming from. The administration, Scott Bessent, has said it twice in the last week, that the money's coming from American companies. That's where it's coming from.
Right.
As the president's saying it's flowing from outside sources, it's not. It's flowing from the United States.
Right.
The vast majority of it comes from United States businesses. And as we have said, no matter whether you think tariffs are beneficial in order to stop other countries from unfair trading practices or not, they do one of three things or a combination of all the three. They raise prices, They lower GDP, and you get layoffs.
Yeah. Right.
And if you're doing it in order to, make it more even, explain it to the American people. But when you tell them everything is great and everything is great, the only thing that they really promote is the amount of taxes that American companies are paying. That's not a win even for Republicans.
Right.
And you can't do that. And I bring up Steve Cortes because you could basically call him, from what I have seen over the last, 8 years when he was on CNN, an always Trumper.
Yeah.
The most loyal Trump supporter, a Trump advisor, and everything else. And he said, and it's the warning that we put out. And I don't know what it's going to be in a year, but you can have the greatest foreign policy in the world. It doesn't affect the average person out there. There were two things that made it so Trump won the last election. One, he has had unbelievable success, and that is the border. And the other one is prices. It's that simple. It's prices. That affects people every day. Learn from the mistake the Biden administration made, where they made prices as not a worry at all. Ignore it. It's all fake. The economy is doing great. And as we've stated before, the economy is what the individual feels. So even if you're doing something that the majority of America agrees with is a good thing, when you tell them it's going to benefit them personally and they don't feel it, you can't win that argument.
Right.
And that even if they agree, because the American public agrees with tariffs.
Yeah.
But the American people, when you tell them tariffs won't affect you, it will only affect foreign governments, and that doesn't happen, and they feel it, you lose.
Well, and the problem, too, is that with everything being delayed over and over again, if you get to a point where major tariffs kick in and, we're heading toward the end of the year pretty quickly here, you get into midterm season and you can't reverse what's going on because you've made all these deals, then you've got a massive problem in trying to keep the House and the Senate. And that's going to be, something that, again, I don't know how you reverse that, because you're not going to go undo the deals. So whatever you do, you're going to have to live with through the midterms, wherever that is. Now, we've seen the short history of this entire thing play out so far has been what? If not delay it, and China's kind of its own separate deal. But with other countries, they've lowered the tariffs from where they started. And why did they do that? Well, the president said early on, there will be pain. He understands. And, I've been calling it the Laffer curve of tariffs, whether it's 10%, 15% on the baseline, wherever that might be. I think he's pushing for 15 more and more. But whatever they think that is, where you're going to have an impact, but it's not the death knell for you, then. But the problem is, why would you want to have any negative impact? And that's the concern, because I don't like my money going to the government. As a conservative, I never have. Only for necessary roles. I don't like this parade we're having by raising money through hurting the economy. That shouldn't be a revenue stream for the government.
And I think promoting it as the replacement to the income tax, I heard, again, somebody from the administration saying here in the last couple of days, it's like, stop it, that's not going to happen. By the way, Steve Cortez, who just says inflation economy memo to the Washington Republicans, former senior advisor to Trump and J.D. Vance. But in there, as you notice, nothing that he says is a solution. Nothing has to do with lowering prices. 866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
We are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Recent college graduates struggle to find jobs. We'll talk about that and a whole bunch more, plus redistricting in California. All on the way.
Top of the hour news is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Thanks so much for being here this morning. Oh, man, I got to get this audio cut. I got to find this here. I'm just looking at the quote from New York City Mayor Eric Adams.
Yeah.
Just slammed Mamdani.
Yeah.
After Mamdani says he will decriminalize prostitution. Oh, my gosh, it's getting brutal now.
Yeah.
Eric Adams says, quote, I don't know where in his Quran it states that it's okay for a woman to be on the streets selling her body, end of quote.
Oh,
man. That's going to be interesting. I did see he was up to 9% in the latest poll.
All right. You mean Adams?
Adams, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Hey, he's getting close to double digits. Yeah, it's going to be... It's like one of those horror movies, you know, where you kind of want to look away. You know how it's going to end up. But if the polls remain the same in this mayoral race in New York City, Mamdani's going to walk right into office. And from the outside, we're looking at it, and we've been, you know, I think many conservatives, but us included, have been telling the people of New York City, hey, if this is what you want, this is what you're going to get. But man, watching all of the fallout from whatever policies he enacts along the way, still is going to just have that where you want to cover your eyes and go, oh, this is going to hurt. This is going to be bad. But if they choose it, it's on them. You know, maybe they'll finally get that soda cup size ban put in place. No. Soda ban. Forget about the cup size. And forget about, you know, salt or trans fats or anything else. It'll all be banned. You know why? Because the government, the city will be providing your food for you. Here's what they'll give you what you need. You'll line up for your daily bread and vodka. And prostitution will be legal. That's going to all go very well.
Well, the free vodka will help mainstream that a little bit.
I guess.
Here's your bottle of vodka. Well, I never really considered prostitution, but
I don't have any money, but if I did,
I want to keep the New York City economy going.
Now, will he have, like rent control, will he have a price control put in place for prostitution so that the average person can afford it?
Right.
And if they can't afford it, will the city help in that regard?
Right, not the capitalist fat cats.
Right, exactly.
Are only the capitalist fat cats going to be able to afford prostitutes?
Well, they'll have a special tax. I don't know how you enforce it. I have no idea how that works.
Oh my gosh, I can't say it.
Yeah.
That was just one time.
Yeah.
That one
No.
moment right
Yeah.
there where I wish that we weren't on the radio. It's just a podcast.
I'm with you. Oh, no, I've got a million lines in my
This-
head
I know.
that
It's
will never see the light of day.
Subsidized prostitution. Things will be so bad. It's like, did you see the prostitutes union? With all the regulation, we can't make any money. We need to be subsidized.
I am so close to being fired.
Well,
Oh, my God.
hey, look, it's what? Wait a minute. When
What?
a communist when a communist Muslim promotes prostitution in a society, that's like it's like saying I'm opening the door to every joke on the planet. I mean, it's inviting you inside to say, where can this go? Just the communism alone in prostitution, where can we go with this?
Well, look. If the if the city government's going to be paying for my Pop-Tarts and my Sweet Tarts,
Now hold it.
What?
Wait a minute. Hold it.
What?
Hold it.
What?
Let's not assume we're forgetting male prostitutes.
Oh,
Okay, maybe we should move on now from this topic.
I didn't mention gender, so I know. I assume it's all inclusive. You know, you don't want to be a bigot or nothing. You know, you have to be tolerant and whatnot.
You know, the thing I was thinking,
Because love is love.
if
And it's going to cost you extra.
if you legalize prostitution, will the climate change people agree with that? I don't know where the joke's going,
Yeah,
but
I
I'm
don't
thinking
know.
climate change, prostitution, and so I'd have to work on that one.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd have to work. By the way, I'd have to work on that if I'm pretending to be a stand-up comedian.
Yes.
How
Yeah.
do you get those
Yeah.
two together to come up with a joke?
Yeah. Well, I have ways. Stupid FCC and corporate rules. Yeah.
And then Cory Booker would run for president again and say prostitution should be legalized nationwide. Everybody knows where I'm going here. And his new nickname, Hooker Booker.
Yeah.
All right.
Hello, Spartacus. Nice to see you again. Oh, my gosh.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll let Senator John Kennedy handle those jokes.
Yeah.
Maybe that would be the best thing for us to do.
He's very good at that.
Had one listener, because we were talking about Steve Cortez, the former senior advisor to President Trump, and J.D. Vance, who put out an article yesterday, an op-ed piece in American Greatness. Inflation economy memo to Washington Republicans. GOP owns the economy and voters are furious. Wake up, act fast, or anger at the checkout line will turn into pain in the ballot box. But everything that he talks about here, you know, and when we talk about these things, I believe, because we had one of our listeners that said the president needs to focus on this, and maybe instead of some of the other things that he's focusing on. I believe that the president, without question, wants a much better economy in the United States.
Oh, yeah, I believe that.
I have no doubt at all that he wants a much better economy.
Yeah.
I also believe that the other things that he is doing is extremely important. Americans want a leader like Trump when it comes to foreign policy.
Oh, yeah.
And if I were to grade him on foreign policy, that's an A+.
Yep.
Without question, and now I don't know where this is going to go because this really isn't a United States thing. This is between, and Trump said it again yesterday, this is actually between Zelensky and Putin.
Yeah.
But the fact is it isn't, because if we're going to put sanctions on Russia, severe sanctions on Russia along with Europe, we're involved.
Yeah. Yep.
But I think he's been wonderful there. The thing that the thing that perplexes me is how, when it comes to basic economics, it seems like at times they know it, and at other times they don't wish to acknowledge it. And as we've said before, basic economics is how people respond to incentive. It's not a complicated issue.
Right.
Because people, I don't know, economics is really complicated. No, it's not. It's very simple. It's how
Yeah.
people respond to incentive, and that means and or disincentive.
Mm-hmm.
And so you simply put that to anything out there, and you say, okay, let me follow and connect the dots on the incentive thing. When you look at, for example, because everything that he talks about here, that his solution, and none of his solutions for Steve Cortez, who is going after people like Tucker Carlson and Joe Rogan, Megyn Kelly, Ben Shapiro, saying they have a massive reach, but they don't get economics. Well, he doesn't get economics, Steve Cortez, at least in this article.
Yeah.
Because everything that he talks about has nothing to do with bringing down prices. All it has to do is saying, okay, temporarily, what are we going to do in order to politically win in this situation with high prices? And he says, launch a full-scale media campaign. Right now, stop coasting. Even friendly media won't save you. Stage events on onshoring wins and immigration triumphs. Talk up wages in print. There it is. Talk up wages in print and videos. Well, you can't do that because wages aren't keeping up over the last year with the cost of living.
Right.
Or prices, excuse me. It's
Right.
not 1.2% for the last year. Not that they haven't gone up in months, but that's overall what it is the last year. But if you look at it overall, and he goes, and where are the economic media surrogates? Most of all, absolutely do not tell people it's fine. So he's telling you, don't tell people everything's fine. Tell them you're working to make it better. He talks about tariff rebate checks. Well, what do they raise? What do they expect to raise? What is it, $300 billion this year? I think you've seen that figure.
That's what was promoted, yeah.
Let's say you gave everybody a $5,000 check. What's going to happen at that point? I mean, what amount would you have to do to make a difference if you're going to do that? $5,000. What's that going to cost? What's that going to be put pressure on again? Prices.
Yeah, yeah.
You don't get rid of the price increases by giving cash to people, huge amounts of cash. We saw what happened with Biden on that one. So, but that still doesn't solve the problem. It may give a reprieve, but does that solve the problem? And again, new taxes is on remittances. That would bring in some money, but bringing in more money or having an additional tax wherever it is, how does that solve the problem? And phase out worker visas. If you phase out worker visas, no worker visas, nobody can come into the country. The president's already said he wants to give an exemption to farmers and hotels and whatever because of the economic impact.
Right.
Well, he's saying we need to drive up wages drastically. If you drive up wages drastically, what does that do?
Well, that's going to have effect on prices.
Exactly. Everything has an effect on prices.
Yeah.
Nothing here that he talks about affects prices at all. And if you look at it, for example, And we have said, for example, if you're going to raise $300 billion and then you divide that and everybody goes out and spends that, you put $300 billion into people's pockets. Where does that $300 billion? Where did every dollar of that $300 billion come from?
The consumer. It came from the economy.
Well, it came from the economy. It came from American companies,
right?
Which
they pass along. Either they absorb or pass along to the consumer.
Whether you had the exporter initially eat some of the cost, they're going to continue to do that less and less and less. And the same thing, though, with the American companies that so far have eaten the majority of the cost. But what happens if you're trying to get more people employed? And, they're coming out and saying, we need to talk about the fact that there's great investment coming in. Well, there's great investment, but nobody's hiring new workers.
And a reminder for the audience, anytime that they absorb those costs, there has to be an adjustment made somewhere. And ultimately,
exactly,
either immediately or in short term, they're going to have to make that adjustment. And so you're basically taking that money from the economy.
Right. Once you made the decision to say, rightly or wrongly, whether you believe it's that we're going to bring American business back here. But again, that's not what they're talking about as much anymore.
Right.
The major focus is we're raising an incredible amount of money, which means they're promoting the fact that we're taxing American companies. And then they're bragging, we're taxing American companies. Bessent did it twice in the last week. We're taxing these American companies. So far, it hasn't been felt by the consumer. Some of it has. And as you and I went through again, even though the inflation rate itself has moderated, the things that people actually use every single day are still way up there and continuing to go up a lot more than the 2% figure that they want to get to. And everything is on top of what we have felt. And we've said that's the predicament, and that's why you have to be careful, because the biggest economic concern right now for people is prices.
Yep.
And it's that simple. Call it inflation, call it increase in prices, whatever you wish to call it, prices matter. And so when you follow economics here, that's why it's probably tough for Cortez to say, here's what we do to solve the price problem. What he's saying is we've got a price problem, and so to deal with it, you got to focus on other things and take the additional taxes on American companies, give it all back to the people, which then at that point, we saw what happened already. We experienced it. They spend it. What does that do? More pressure on inflation. Nowhere does Cortez talk about how to get prices down.
Right.
And that's a problem. And for some reason, there doesn't want to be, even the people of America, to acknowledge how economics works, which is very simple. It's not complicated. It's a complicated thing. No, it isn't. How do people respond to incentive? That means people in companies, workers, whatever. How do they respond?
Well, and that's it. And everything here seems like a distraction. Do this in order to mitigate.
Right.
It's all mitigation.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
Surviving and thriving as an owner-operator has just as much to do with managing costs as it does with generating revenue. Like the chief financial officer of any company, you have to be concerned about rising costs, especially without increases in revenue. Trying to reduce costs, let alone make sense of them, can be a complicated task. Understanding basic principles of operating costs can save you thousands of dollars a year. A penny saved could be $1,000 earned. Saving just 1 penny per mile over 100,000 miles driven annually will deliver $1,000 to the bottom line at the end of the year. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more details on this and many other topics. Brought to you by Shell Rotella, with advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
We are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Coming up following the bottom of the hour, there's a headline, the Democrat depression, and also latest on if you're a college student and what the job market is right now. And it is pretty tough. Plus, when we look at, that Steve Cortez column there about prices and everything else, what are some of the things to look at optimistically about what will make the economy boom over the next little bit? And one of the challenges that the president always had, irrespective of the path that he wished to take, and that path is to reset an American economy, would take probably 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years?
Yeah.
Even if it all worked out.
Right.
And if prices are a problem, the concern is if the public is focused on prices and it takes 5, 6, 7 years, are the Democrats back in power?
Catch all 5 hours of the show live every night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you choose. It's very, very easy to listen wherever you want. So talking about the Steve Cortez column here, Steve Cortez, you used to see him on CNN all the time, major Trump supporter, and was a senior advisor to Trump and also J.D. Vance. And if you've listened to this show, we put out the warning. We've been criticized for it, but I don't know why, because we saw what happened during the Biden administration. We said that no matter what the president does, if prices don't come down, that's a huge problem for the midterms. That's the one thing that will kill you no matter what you do. And Cortez is saying the exact same thing. And his solutions are basically not to solve the problem of high prices, but his solution is how to mitigate it through, for example, taking the tariff money and giving massive amounts of money to people so they can spend it.
Right.
And we said, but then what you do is you put the pressure on inflation again. So everything that he talks about really doesn't solve the problem. And where he says phase out worker visas, saying that AI is wiping out jobs right now, stop importing millions of new legal workers, shut it down, prioritize Americans. Well, you've got, for example, on hotels and farmers, Trump coming out and stating that there should be an exemption to illegal immigrants who are into the country for those particular businesses, and that infuriated part of his base. They've seemed to have gone quiet on that one, haven't they? Though?
Yeah,
Lately.
they have. And look, it is the back and forth because, when you're trying to put your finger on the pulse of what's going on politically with especially illegal immigration, or in this case, worker visas, Trump has been back and forth on that. And in his first term, he was saying, no, we want more visas. We want people to come here. We're going to need more people coming here because we're going to be expanding the economy. Well, things are changing with AI.
Yeah,
but
that's a challenge.
There are other jobs that still have gone unfilled and will be unfilled for a long, long time. And the question is, how do you fill them? In farming, we already know. Look, there are things, there are a number of roles and however it plays out with AI, I don't think we're at that point yet in terms of building the infrastructure. We talked about this when Mike Rowe made some comments recently about what it's going to take, the types of jobs it's going to take to build the infrastructure for AI. And we're still going to need jobs, great paying jobs, or people doing these great paying jobs that are not tech jobs. And I think right now we're in what we call that mismatched territory. In other words, there are a number of, you're not going to get people that just want to go out and work on farms or work in, and how many jobs are there right now that are still unfilled? It's a great number of these jobs that don't get filled, and it's because there's no interest for those jobs. You can say whatever you want. This generation doesn't want to work. They don't want to do that kind of job, whatever it is.
Or nobody's trained for those jobs.
Yeah, and that's where the mismatch comes in that I mentioned just a moment ago. And that is, I think you're probably going to be in that mismatch territory for a while. And the reason you're going to, and it may even get bigger, is because of the growth of AI and its role in the job marketplace. I mean, that's just going to be created naturally, because we have no idea what tomorrow's AI will look like and what it will be capable of. People are talking about it, but it's accelerating at such a rapid pace right now, I don't think you could properly account for it. So I don't know. In terms of the jobs, we talked about if you're going to college to become, I don't know if you're trying to get into the tech industry and you're training and trying to get a degree in one thing, all of a sudden, next thing you know, there's no place for humans when it comes to coding. You did what Biden told you to do. You went out, you learned to code, and then by the time you learned it, AI had already advanced far beyond that, and there's no job for you. That kind of, again, mismatch scenario is going to be in place for quite some time. So I don't know where this all lands, but the fact of the matter is that the government's role is to do everything to create the environment that where corporations have the means to be competitive. And right now, there is this pullback that's going on from corporations. There is, we brought the article from the Wall Street Journal the other day. We're not moving into new homes, and we're not changing jobs as a society right now. And there's a lot to unpack from those two, but when we talk about jobs and not changing jobs, when we're not changing jobs, why is that? Well, because the offerings are changing. When we got the data last week that showed the increase in wages isn't keeping up with inflation, that's a problem.
Well, and one of the reasons may be the beginning of AI and middle management jobs.
Yep.
And there's a glut of workers, and if there's a glut of workers, no matter what you do, you're not going to be able to raise those wages. So if you start talking about the working visas to come in for those types of jobs, yeah, if you do that, that might make it where the wage loss is less. I still think there's going to be a glut over the next 5 to 10 years of white collar workers. And the problem with everything right now is everything to have this evolution is going to take time.
Yeah.
There are going to be hundreds of thousands of manufacturing jobs, or maybe we'll call them high-skilled technical jobs that might be outside of the realm of what you might consider a laborer. Mm-hmm. And who knows what those jobs actually will be. I can see tremendous amount of electrical engineering jobs, mechanical engineering jobs. For all the AI and all the computerized systems and all the robotics, you're going to need a ton of people out there to do a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
And you're still going to need, the service industry is still going to increase. And because we have a shrinking population, or a population that's only growing because of immigration, you may have wage increases for those less skilled, less technical skilled service jobs out there. Yeah. But the problem overall, as we said from the very, very beginning, let me first, before we go there, one of the one of the challenges that I see right now is I don't know what the goal is of the administration anymore with the tariffs. I don't know what their goal is.
All right.
Because it's all over the place. And I think Americans recognized it when the stories came out that said, well, with the Japanese free trade deal, it's now they're going to make it cheaper to buy a fully made Japanese vehicle with very few American parts that is imported from Japan than buy something in North America that has many more parts that are made in America because of the aluminum and steel tariffs. Mm-hmm. And when that happened, I was awaiting the furious response from the administration, which you would expect from that. What do you mean? Because that's completely the opposite of what Trump says he wants. Nothing has ever come from the administration on that.
Right.
Nobody's asked. I haven't seen anybody ask that question yet.
Right.
But that's like, what are you talking about? The other part, when they start talking about the massive investment that, again, is promised, but it's not part of a deal. As everybody has said, whether it's Japan or Germany or the EU, that's a private sector thing. We promised to do that, but it's not written in paper. There is no penalty if it doesn't happen because we can't control what the private sector does. But even if they were going to do all of that, and as we have said, for example, the energy to the EU was exaggerated as to what the United States could do because they promised to take, what was it, $250 billion
Yeah.
A year in natural gas, fuel, gas. Well, we only totally export every single fossil fuel that we export from the United States to everybody is only 160 billion. So that's never going to take place because we can't expand it that quickly here in the United States. And so the investment, all the massive investment, let's say you got all that massive investment, that makes our trade imbalance worse.
Yeah.
And so what's the goal? I don't know what the goal is anymore from the administration. Is it to bring manufacturing back? Is it to have everything made in America by American companies? Is it to lessen the trade imbalance? I don't know. The only consistent message we get from the administration is we're taxing American companies. It's a great success. Well, the conservatives don't buy that.
Right. It's not something
Your own
conservatives have been pushing for.
Your own party doesn't buy it. Conservatives don't buy it. They're like, and so you've lost, everything is all over the place. Nothing yet is really set in stone. The China problem hasn't been solved, and we haven't identified anymore. There seemed to be, in the very beginning, a very well-defined goal of the administration, which was bring American manufacturing back here and make sure the trade imbalance is even.
Right.
Well, none of those are being met.
Right.
So what's the goal? And the goal was never, when Trump promoted tariffs a long time ago, it was never the number one thing being promoted is, look at all the money that we're raising that will go to reduce the deficit. They were big on that this weekend. We're going to reduce the deficit. We're going to reduce the deficit with all the tariffs. That was never the original goal.
No.
And so that's a problem. But even if you were going to say, we're going to put these huge tariffs on to bring U.S. manufacturing back, that's not going to take place for years. And we said this was the challenge that the president had when he did this, is that even if that's your goal and even if it worked 100%, it's still going to take, between 5 and 10 years to get that back here. And in the meantime, prices, well, not even just the meantime, but overall, the prices will still be higher because the tariffs won't go away.
Right.
So prices will still be higher. And in that length of time, since the public is so sensitive to prices over the last couple of years, are Democrats in power, and does it defeat the entire purpose of what you were trying to do? And that's the challenge. And the other challenge is when it comes to the workers and AI. I think AI will help tremendously economic growth, but the transforming of the American public from computer-like tech jobs to industrial, engineering, technical, more labor jobs. That's going to take a generation to do that.
At least, I think.
Yeah. And so I think that's a challenge
Because
that the
it was
American
conditioning
economy has.
to get them out of the labor-intensive mindset and into that. It was a big transition into the tech jobs. But there were so many tech jobs that were exploding. It will just, the question is, will it matter? Will it matter if there's this explosion of jobs related to the support infrastructure, but they're more labor intensive when it comes to the growth of AI, if they're still labor intensive? If they don't pay enough, or even if they do, even if they're great paying jobs, if they're more labor intensive, will they be attractive to the average person?
Well, that's why you can't have public benefits for people that aren't working.
Exactly.
Because the incentive has to be,
You got to eat.
well, it's got to be from the Depression era.
Yep.
You don't work, you don't eat.
Exactly.
866-90-RED-I.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
We are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks so much for being here. So the question is, what should we do? When we read what Steve Cortes is talking about, he's talking about short-term politically how to win.
Mm-hmm.
He's not talking about long-term how to make the economy boom.
Fair point. That's a very important distinction.
But we'll tell you what we believe is the solution, the best solution, coming up.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Thank you for being here. I'm sitting here thinking to myself, what day is it? It's Wednesday.
It is.
it's like
True story.
what day is it? All right, so we start out talking about that article that was in American Greatness, written by Steve Cortes, used to be on CNN. I remember him a lot. Total Trump supporter. Was a senior advisor to both Trump and also J.D. Vance, and said they got to pay attention to prices. It's going to kill them. That if they don't get prices under control, we lose the election. Doesn't matter what else he does that's great. If they don't get prices under control, and he says right now the situation's bad. Now, nowhere does he talk about how to get prices under control. He talks about how to mitigate it through keep the tariffs up, give all that money back to the people, have them spend it, messaging, phase out worker visas, but he never addresses prices.
Right.
And
all of this mitigation is short term because if you're writing a check to someone, if we're going to write checks to people, by the way, they're going to qualify that based on income. Not everybody's going to get a check. But if you were to do that, then what happens down the road when prices don't come down? You're not going to write another check to people. Right. It's not going to happen.
And so we've talked about the challenges and the problems that we're having right now. So what do you do? What do you do long term? And as I said before, with the president, with the tariffs, we don't know where he wants to go with it. It was initially to bring American jobs, bring jobs back here. and reduce the trade deficit. We see with the Japan trade deal where it's actually cheaper to buy now after the deal that they made with them, or the outline of the deal. It's cheaper to buy a fully Japanese-made vehicle than it is a vehicle made in America, North America, with many more American parts in that automobile. And we're like, and with the massive investment that these countries are promising, even if they are not required to deliver it, would actually make our trade imbalance worse.
Right.
And so it's like, what is the goal? And we don't know. And the only thing being promoted is the fact that we're raising hundreds of billions of dollars by taxing American companies. And we're like, that's what you're selling? But what, if you want to do it, what would you do? Forget about the politics of it, the substance of it. What do you do? If you want to bring, because I think the president's actually right in wanting to get foreign investment into the United States. I'm not against that. Initially, he was. Remember, we want everything made in America by American companies. And all of a sudden, we're getting all this massive foreign investment that is being promised to the United States, not required, but promised as part of a deal not to tariff them. Well, you say, okay, how do you do that? How do you get, because I believe we should get massive investment. How do you get investment from American companies and investment from foreign companies? Because I think we should do both. We should be the industrial business capital of the world. How do you do that? The lowest corporate income tax of anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
That's
right.
Whether you're a foreign company or whatever. Now, I did say to you, make it zero. I don't know. I don't think you could get that. The public wouldn't allow that. Even if it's the correct thing to do economically speaking, I don't think it's possible. But let's just say, what do you do economically speaking? Forget about the politics of it. Make it zero. Have a sales tax, whatever. You have a sales tax in America, whatever. Now, that would also, if you're going to do that, I also believe that the federal government should not be involved in as much as they're involved in. I think many more things should go back to the states where they have to balance the budgets. And you've got to get rid of the deficit, but have the lowest income tax, the corporate income tax in the world. Whatever you do for other taxes, fine, but lowest you make it. Number two, massive investment in electricity. Whatever incentives you need in the next 10 years to increase the electrical output of consistent energy in the United States by 50%. You need to get, and this is something you and I have talked about for the longest time, we need to have the lowest electricity prices in the United States, bar none.
Cheap and plentiful energy is going to be the key
Right.
to a long-term economic boom, which includes that investment. We've talked about that for years. It's not just having a labor force available, because bringing those jobs here, bringing that investment here, we talked about it. I thought about it when they were talking about Hyundai building a steel plant and everything else. And, that's going to be great jobs. That's going to be great jobs. Well, the question is, again, where is the price point on pay for those jobs? So that's going to dictate the demand or the interest by American workers. Because if we're talking about a situation where you have massive investment in the U.S., but then we need to also import people here on work visas to do the jobs created by that investment, then obviously we're not winning. And that's not good. And the question is, where is that balance, right? What types of jobs are we talking about? We know in agriculture, they're not going to be huge paying jobs. That's already a given. There's already a long history of that. What we don't have a long history of, what we don't have a recent history of, or any history when you involve the advent of AI, is corporate investment into those jobs, those more labor-intensive jobs, while AI is expanding. I don't know where that demand is. In other words, what will be the cost of labor? What will corporations, what will they have to pay for that labor for any given role? And I think that's a huge question mark right now.
Well, I think that's where you look at legal immigration, not just work visas, but legal immigration increasing. We're going to have to do that. Look, Trump said it. Trump said it years ago. In fact, the fight with Jim Acosta, he was saying that the jobs are going to be created. We need legal immigration. He wasn't talking maybe work visas temporarily, but he was talking about legal immigration. You bring in people to become American citizens who will also work here, because we have, the second lowest birth rate now? We're not going to be able to replace the population that we have. Right. And if companies don't have workers, they go.
Right.
Just like anything else. If you don't have the electricity, if you don't have the people, they're not going to be here. Now, on energy, the reason we need to do it now is because it puts us at the forefront. Everybody else is falling behind in that. Europe can't compete. Europe's still trying to figure out all the climate change crap.
Right.
And so many of these other countries just can't compete with us. So you do that, and you do it. You do it now. You're going to have to talk, because remember, this is long term. Short term, I don't know if we can get anything done short term. Long term, and I'm talking 5-10 years out, this is what you're going to have to do. In order to bring it in, you need massive United States investment and massive foreign investment into the United States. Companies coming in and shipping our products all over the world. Well, now, how do you do that? Because the price point of labor, again, as you mentioned, is critical. Well, that means you've got to increase productivity in other ways, which the United States has been able to do for generations upon generations upon generations. Maybe not recently, but the fact is we've been able to do that with just better management, a better culture, a better work ethic, working longer hours. But people working the whole work ethic involved in it. But I see long term it would be legal immigration, not just work visas.
Well, because in our society, we're moving. We have for years, with each generation, whether they want to work smarter, not harder, or however they want to phrase it, they don't want to do labor-intensive jobs. They certainly don't want to do them for long hours. When you talk about like oil field jobs, that might as well have been 100 years ago. I mean, it's going on right now, and those guys are working tons of overtime when things are going good. Well, that's what it requires. In our generation, when the boss said, hey, there's going to be overtime on the line coming up, we were already spending that money going, ka-ching. Man, I want the overtime. I want time and a half. Are you kidding me? It's perfect timing coming up in November, and I'll have money for Christmas. And it was all of that. But we're not at that point now in a society. They want to know how they make more for what they're doing already.
Right. But that's one of the reasons we have to get rid of government programs that reward people that are able-bodied that aren't working. That has to go. It has to go, because the incentive for our parents, you think our parents wanted to work those jobs? Throughout all of human history, the incentive was not to work the job that you wish to work.
It was to make money.
It was to make money in order to survive.
Yep.
And so that's how, and by the way, I understand the political problem. That's why I said, put politics aside for a second. What do you actually have to do? Now, that may be the stupidest thing ever, to put politics aside to say that, but it is the reality of what you have to do in order to succeed. So when you see right now, what is it? I think about 500,000 manufacturing jobs remain unfilled right now with what we currently have. Well, if you don't fill them somehow right now or in the next couple of years, and you constantly have those jobs coming down that exist. And I was reading here, Carolyn Lee, the president, the executive director of Manufacturing Institute, says Roughly half the open positions in manufacturing require at least a bachelor's degree. The other half of open manufacturing jobs does not require a bachelor's degree, and manufacturers say they're also struggling to fill those. She says that the most in-demand jobs in manufacturing right now are maintenance technicians, machine operators, material handlers, and forklift operators. And they go through the whole thing of prices and labor, and Americans have lost jobs because of labor. But they also have let me just see here. A classic solution to apparent worker shortage: offer higher pay. That would probably convince workers to invest acquiring coveted skills and entering the manufacturing workforce. This is one reason Orrin Cass, chief economist and founder of American Compass, a conservative think tank, says he's skeptical whenever employers complain about worker shortages. I have less than zero sympathy for employers who go around complaining about labor shortages and skill gaps. He jokes that he has a side hustle running an incredible, innovative biotech firm. It employs leading scientists at $10 an hour to develop extraordinary cures. I have 500,000 job offers as well, and I've not been able to fill one of them. He has a point. We've covered the phenomena in trucking. Trucking companies have complained of worker shortages for decades, yet relatively low wages and challenging work conditions are clearly a huge factor.
Actually, what's going on right now is what Biden ushered in, and that is the relaxing of being able to, in fact, the requirement for understanding and reading, being able to read English, which, by the way, played a big part in someone who was here illegally from another country recently in a deadly crash in Florida that's making all the news, and it's driving trucking rates through the floor and fatalities related to trucking through the roof. And that has been the downfall. The trucking companies that have been screaming, driver shortage. No, there has to be an adjustment as to what you're going to do and what's going to be accepted. And also, and on many different levels, how you handle this regulatory thing with so many, a huge influx of foreign drivers coming here that shouldn't be here. If you want to come here, you do it legally. You read English, you understand English to the point that you can safely navigate that truck, and that may affect rates to a small degree, but nothing like what we have seen in a trucking recession that's been going on for the better part of 5 years now.
More to come on what you do. 866-90-RED-EYE.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
We are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. And then this article from, this was in NPR where they interviewed people in manufacturing, company leaders, and the head of the Manufacturing Institute, Carolyn Lee, who says many Americans have outdated notions of what manufacturing jobs actually entail. She suggested many of the images that they're dirty, monotonous, dangerous factory jobs is not what the image should be. She said they're actually clean and bright and full of technology.
Yeah.
She sees changing Americans' perceptions about manufacturing as one critical part of convincing more young people to work in that particular sector. She said these jobs in factories are completely different from factories just 25 years ago. That's where then you get to the next point is you need to get rid of the federal government giving everybody scholarship money and loans, to cheap loans to go to college.
Yeah, we're just flooding these colleges with money. And what do you think that does to tuition rates? And then what happens at the end of it? They end up having something that's absolutely useless in the marketplace.
Well, but if you do give scholarships, it should be to engineering. If you're going to give scholarships, or not scholarships,
to a sector where
loans,
where jobs are
to where the jobs
need to be filled.
I really think that the thing that is going to happen and probably explode is apprenticeships.
Well,
And I can see states getting involved in that
Yep.
as states used to. I remember, what was it called in New York? Was it, there was a name, Seacoast, I think it was, back in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And they had private sector apprenticeship actual schools
yeah,
that would get you a machining job after 6 weeks.
right.
You were in after 6 weeks.
Right.
They immersed you in it big time, and I don't know whether it was semi-public, private-public relationship there, but I can see massive apprenticeships that have to be there in order to do the jobs. But it's engineering, any of the forms of engineering, mechanical engineering, probably civil engineering, nuclear, electrical engineering, big time.
Nuclear engineering, in terms of that, goes back to power. What we're
Right.
going to need for power. Nuclear power is going to be required if we're going to accelerate to the point necessary to facilitate all these AI plants. It's going to require.
And
nukes.
even private scholarships have to focus in on the technical jobs that are going to be needed today. Everything has to be focused in on that if you want to do it.
And you bring up apprenticeship. That's a part of this rebranding of that industry. Again, in those more labor intensive jobs, when it comes to manufacturing, there has to be that, and apprenticeships really have a huge role in ushering people in, saying, look at what you can make, look at what the job is, look at what it entails. You make it fascinating in many different ways, but you certainly do away with the old image of just a dirty, old plant where you're working, again, your butt off and you're not making it. You're not making the kind of money you want to make. You're not getting those benefits, but that's going to require the private sector stepping up to those roles.
The show that never stops. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Another article, Eric, in the Washington Times, again, a conservative publication. Recent college grads struggle to find jobs amid AI boom. Recent college graduates are struggling more than ever to find the entry-level work as artificial intelligence and uncertainty about the impact of President Trump's tariffs have dampened hiring. Companies are in the wait-and-see mentality with tariffs and the economy, which is why we have said hopefully the president will get all of this resolved, sooner than later. But they're in a wait-and-see mentality, said Beth Hendler Grunt, founder and president of the New Jersey-based career coaching firm Next Great Step. As a result, they're hesitant to hire right now and looking to AI to automate many of these entry-level tasks.
Yeah. Well, I think, one of the key things that stuck out in recent months to me was when I think it was the chief technical officer, one of the executives at Amazon, was telling on a call with his own employees, AI is going to take over coding. If you're learning to code, if you know how to code now, that won't be a job humans do in a very short period of time. And I think he said 3 to 5 years. I don't know that it's going to take that long. And the point is that now you have this acceleration of this, what I call this, or has been called this mismatch type of scenario, where people go and they think they're, training for a job, and it's not like they get a degree in the arts and then think they're going to go work construction. They go and learn to code, and they get a degree in computer technology and everything else, and then all of a sudden that job's not there for them. those are the things, when the Google fallout happened and so many layoffs happened at Google, and they were like, well, we can't believe that AI is taking our job. And I was like, wait a minute. You guys were on the forefront of AI. You were the ones creating it. How did you not see that what you designed it to do just that?
Yeah, you did say that early on.
And so that's very different than people going into a computer field, if you're 18 and you say, okay, look, I'll learn to code. I'll get a degree in computer technology and I'll ace it when I get out. There will be plenty of jobs for me. And then all of a sudden AI during that 4 years has changed all that. That's a very different scenario, but it is the scenario that we're in now. And I think even those that are in the tech field right now, I made a joke to a buddy of mine, Elon Musk needs to be careful about what he creates because he might replace himself one day. You know what I mean? And it's because the innovation, if you look at key innovators in recent years, Steve Jobs, certainly Elon Musk, others, I would reluctantly acknowledge Bill Gates. But these innovators, these human innovators, that it's actually a true story it is a real scenario that AI will be replacing the innovators because AI will in and of itself be something that is an innovator within that entire, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, AI industry, AI universe, as the kids might say. It will be creating, it will recognize a demand and look and say, this needs to be created. So innovators, and of course, if it means liberals will look at it and say, well, if it means a few less billionaires, then that's a good thing. It won't be a huge number of jobs in that way. But when you look at how many jobs those innovators, the human innovators, Bill Gates and Steve Jobs and Elon Musk have created along the way, then you understand the very, very deep impact of that. And that's the question. All of that remains, a huge question mark as to how deep this goes, what AI is going to be able to do. On the positive side of it, creating efficiencies in industry, that's a given. That's something where there is a demand. But when you create more efficiencies, you do then start to carve out fewer roles for humans. And that's obviously the massive downside.
It's tough here when you look at it. I mean, I'm looking at this career coaching firm manager who said that employers have scaled back hiring expectations to 0.6% growth from a projected 7.3% increase at just the end of 2024.
That's a huge swing.
That's massive. Hiring and job search experts interviewed by the Washington Times estimated that the time it takes to land a white-collar job in office hiring, data analysis, or customer service has jumped from 2 to 3 months in years past to 4 to 6 months for the class of 2025. It's the toughest entry point for new graduates since the late 1980s, said Sam Wright, head of the partnerships and operations at Hunter, a Seattle-based AI job search platform. Employers are pacing interviews and deferring starts into the last 3 months of this year, which we have stated is what most companies are trying to figure out, where the economy is going. So they don't want to hire now. And they figured that the tariff situation would be done by the last 3 months and they'd have an expectation of what was coming in the future.
Right.
The worst thing for business is
uncertainty.
Uncertainty is that
it's you can't have this question mark. When we say, look, we don't know what the administration is trying to accomplish with tariffs. We don't know if it's protectionism, if it's more investment, if it's, I don't know, being able to facilitate a $5,000 check for everybody once a year.
Raising revenue. Well,
we don't know what that goal is.
Right.
Well, you step over to the industry side of it. They also don't know what the goal is, but they don't know what the scenario, what the environment looks like. They don't know. They can't look at the landscape right now and tell where they are. There are many ways that the government can muddy the waters. We saw that at the end of 2008 and into 2009 with the Great Recession. And that was shoving money into the tills of all the banks because only a few, I think it was 2 or 3, it ended up being, were on the brink of being insolvent. And that's not, now you have the same scenario with tariffs. Okay, where is this going to end up? Because it keeps changing. China's one thing. You can set that tariff game aside, not that it doesn't have a huge impact. It does. And there is uncertainty there. And eventually that's going to have to be resolved. But the question is, what are you trying to achieve? And with all of the changes, you can't make a 5-year plan in industry based on something that's changing week to week. You just can't. They need to know what the policy is going to be. It's bad enough that we have the distinct possibility that the other party, the Democrats, may be in office here in a few years and run the White House, Senate, and the House. We hope that's not the case. But I'm talking about in terms of what industry has to plan for. This is what we have talked about. When you come in and you do things administratively, like on energy, then energy companies can't invest because they know the next administration can turn that around. And they're not going to invest a bunch of money long term for something that could turn around in 4 or 8 years. And so right now, you can't invest long term, based on the fact that you don't know where the administration's going to go day to day on their own agenda.
Now, these numbers, I believe, are a couple of years old. And LinkedIn did this in March of 2025, but I think these are numbers from 2023, I believe. But these are people after a few years that are working in the curriculum that they had in college. Engineering degrees, approximately 73% of graduates with engineering degrees are employed in college-level roles 5 years after graduation. Public safety degrees, only 32% of graduates with public safety degrees hold college-level jobs 5 years post-graduation, suggesting an underemployment rate of 68%. Biology degrees, nearly 47% of biology graduates are underemployed 5 years after earning their diplomas. Gender studies, 15% of now this goes back to a few years. This goes back to 2022.
Yeah, right, yeah.
15%. That's got to be less now. 15% that graduated with those degrees, ended up in their chosen profession. But that's going back before woke went broke. I haven't used that term, so I saw something the other day, somebody on the left going, that term is horrible to use. They didn't go broke. They didn't go broke. So that's why I chuckled when I said that. You look at the challenge, because you can look at the big picture, but the small picture is you as an individual and where you're going to work and where your place is going to be. Now, I went to college and I had a science and engineering degree, and I really never worked in the college level in that curriculum. I was a machinist, but that was not based on my college education.
Right.
And I did that for, I went into radio for a short period of time. I was in banking during college. Did that just almost a year after college, and then went into radio a little bit, failed miserably, and then went into machining. And so I really never worked. And I had 2-year and a 4-year degree that you would thought would have taken me, into that, yet I didn't end up doing that.
Right, yeah.
Much to my father's disappointment for a number of years.
Well,
Then he came around. He eventually came around and said, okay, maybe you made the right choice. But yeah, it's always been tough out there. My dad always used to say, I don't know when these good old times were. Where were these good old times? They're saying the 50s. Well, I started working in the 50s. And when I got married, I was working 2 full-time jobs and a part-time job. Where were these good old days?
yeah. Yeah, it was always the case. I remember my dad, he always, while in the Air Force, he worked a part-time job and also finished his degree, ended up getting his master's even.
Yeah.
And so, those are things that you look at and I mean, that was always the case, but they lived below their means. They didn't, pretend that they needed to live in a, massive house, even though we had 5 kids. All 4 boys slept in one room for years.
I think my father back in 1969 gave me the great advice, be good at 2 or 3 different things. And I said, well, college or trade. And he said both.
Yeah.
He didn't say pick one. He goes, no, do both.
No, all of it. All the above.
And his point was always, you can't depend on anything.
Right.
You have to be prepared.
Right.
That you have to adapt to the world because the world is as much as, and a lot of liberals scream that. Well, why isn't it this way out there? Because the world doesn't adapt to you. You've got to adapt to the world.
Exactly.
And that has never changed.
No.
That's never changed.
That's it. I mean, look, all these dreams and everything else kind of go away when you realize you have to eat.
Yeah. And so that's the big thing. What will give the incentive or force, either way, the culture to change when it comes to people wanting to work high-tech industry labor jobs?
Yeah, I think it has to be force and incentive. I think it's a combination.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
He is Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. It's not the first time America's gone through this transition that we're going to go through with AI. Can you imagine in the Industrial Revolution?
Oh, my gosh.
When you had, what was it? I'm going to guess 95% plus people were farmers.
Yeah.
And within, a period of probably 50 years, it was probably 50-50, then 100 years. What is it now? Listen, probably 3% of the American workforce is involved in farming.
Right.
So, these transitions happen all the time over a period of time where people have to, and new generations have to do something completely different than the generation before.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
We are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Welcome. Thank you for being here. We forgot our mission.
What?
Which was at the beginning of the show to make sure that we played that Senator John Kennedy audio cut a couple times during the show.
Well, that means we got to play it now and then again before the end of the show.
Yes. Just for entertainment purposes only.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Here he is.
I think we're winning more than we're losing. Some of that is due to Republicans, but a lot of it, as you pointed out, Leland, is due to Democrats. As I've said before, you never interfere with your opponent when he's kicking his own ass.
Somebody wrote to me, guys, he's Mr. Haney from Green Acres.
That's true. The late Pat Buttram, member of my family.
Yes, exactly.
Great uncle of mine. I never met him, but yeah, he was related by marriage.
Mr. Douglas.
Mr. Douglas, this is the problem. The Democrats. It's actually
Kicking their
he's actually wow. I might be related to him. Actually, I was only related to Pat Buttram by marriage, but maybe I'm a distant relative by marriage to Senator Kennedy.
That was pretty.
That's
that was pretty good.
That was fairly close.
That was fairly close.
Fairly close. I have to work on that.
I was impressed.
Yeah.
So since we brought that up, I just a couple of articles, one from Fox News, the other one National Review, just about the Democrats. Gavin Newsom is not the front runner. Well, we've already talked about that where he stands before.
Yeah.
But it's like this is just so dang funny. Jeffrey Blair wrote it about this in National Review. At one moment, he's out promising that he will coax California voters into tossing out their independent redistricting commission for a new Democratic gerrymander of the state. The next, he's sass-talking on social media in a witless attempt to imitate Donald Trump's social media style. Now, after he did that, Newsom's team has let it be known that his new hip tweeting style is actually a product of two highly paid political staffers, which strikes me as the sort of admission one makes not to share credit, but rather to avoid blame. Also, the idea that Newsom must employ two professional communicators to workshop and write material in imitation of what the president dashes off for free in regular, furiously unmediated intervals is a hilarious comment on how psychologically straitjacketed Democrats truly are. You can't do it yourself. You got to pay people to imitate the opposition.
You know, and so here you have it, right? Something we have talked about. This is one more example. Take any of the key players on the right. President Trump, Vice President J.D. Vance, Ramaswamy. Do they need to pay anybody to tell them how to talk and how to respond?
No.
We've talked about conviction for the longest time. This is who you are, and if you believe these things, you should be able to debate with anybody about anything that you believe without ever calling them any names or anything else. Now, if you throw in some flair, like Senator John Kennedy, we welcome that, and it gives us more material for the show. But if you need to do what the left does and go to the name calling and the extremes and everything else, it tells us you have no convictions. You don't want to talk the issues. If you're doing what they're doing here and paying consultants, my gosh, why didn't I apply for that job? You're highly paid, it says, right? We don't know what they're paying.
Yeah,
it says highly
paid, yeah.
By the way, if you're paying them anything, you're paying too much because you're not, they're not, no one can tell you what your convictions are. They're your convictions. And you either have them or not. You can't learn from others what you believe.
I like this here. But, and this is some pretty good writing, but Newsom wants you to know that He is there for you. He's the man in the arena, fighting in ever so manly ways to preserve the California dream and bring it to America. Here he is last Thursday speaking alongside fellow Democratic sex symbol Adam Schiff about his gerrymandering plan, boiling over with outrage about the elemental threat facing the nation. And then this is a quote of what he said. Newsom said, "Wake up, America, wake up. You will not have a country. If he rigs this election, you will have a president who will be running for a third term. Mark my words. I wasn't lying when I said I received in the mail a Trump 2028 ad from one of his biggest supporters. These guys are not screwing around."
All right.
None of this tiresome hysteria makes even the slightest lick of sense, as we said last week when we read that to you.
Right.
Or when we played the audio, actually, from him.
Mm-hmm.
Donald Trump is more likely to captain SpaceX's inaugural trip to Mars than he is to run for a third term for president. But, of course, that's not the point. The point is that Newsom has employed his power as governor to elbow himself into the center of the frame to be talked about by the media in recent weeks as some kind of Democratic front runner for the 2028 presidential nomination. As my colleague Dan McLaughlin aptly put to me last week, Newsom may not be the best candidate, but he is certainly the most candidate for now, at least, whatever the hell that means. The most candidate.
The most candidate?
I love that.
I don't know.
Because even more fascinating is the discomfort from media liberals and the progressives alike with the idea that Newsom is their avatar.
Well, no, I mean, that's it. Look, when everything is built on aesthetics, Gavin with the good hair is not going. It hasn't been pulling it off with just the good hair, right? And the bobbing head and the smile. It's that all of that lost its luster years ago. It has changed since he was city councilman in San Francisco, then went on to be, mayor, lieutenant governor, now governor. Yeah, remember
You're shaking your head. I'm shaking my head.
We've been following it for so long.
And you know what I was shaking my head about.
Yeah.
And this is when, we obviously notice his stupidity.
Yeah.
Because of our keen sense and awareness of political idiots.
Yes.
We remember when he was lieutenant governor and said, "We are going to take a road trip to to Texas.
Yeah.
To figure out why their economy seems to work and ours doesn't." And we said, well, if you have to take a trip somewhere to find out how an economy works, you're a moron.
Well, same guy is paying people to tell him how to talk.
Yeah.
This is, and that's it. There are no convictions here because you're a pretender. You're nothing. You don't have any convictions. And if you do, you're too afraid to espouse them. And why would you be? If you're on the left today, why would any of them be afraid to espouse them? So it's as radical as the world is on the far left. It only leads me to believe that they're morons. You're empty. You got nothing. You have absolutely nothing to offer people. No solutions. You just thought you could slick back your hair and breeze through all the way to the top. Well, you step outside that blue bubble that is California, and things change. Another governor, this one being the governor of Florida, Governor DeSantis, probably taught that to you on that debate stage that seemed to change that trajectory for Newsom, at least temporarily.
And this is just so great because he really lays out where the Democrats are. Nothing is about really about the issues, but he says when he talked about the discomfort that Newsom attracts from Democrats, he says he has money, looks, a network of powerful friends, and has filled out most of the Democratic Party's single most important state. He can talk a good game in a way that the Democrats' last two nominees for the position notably could not. But nobody loves him. Progressives, of course, dislike Newsom for the same reason they dislike almost everyone. Not radical enough, even though he is. If AOC runs, she claims nearly every one of those voters. My more hard-headed Democratic operative friends defend him primarily in realist terms, pointing out that few are better positioned to mount a truly national campaign than Newsom, given his telegenic presentation and fundraising abilities. He checks the most important boxes, and that matters a lot more than people think in the Democratic primary. Remember Joe Biden? But does he? I have a very simple way that I apply to the post-Obama Democratic presidential primary. Tell me who wins in South Carolina, and I'll tell you who the Democrats are going to nominate at the convention. That's another way of saying that the votes of African Americans, black women in particular, are going to be decisive in 2028. I evaluate every potential Democratic candidate by asking myself, can I see this person not humiliating themselves in a black church swaying to gospel music? This is why I'm so eager to see Chris Murphy make a serious run. Imagine the comedy bonanza. Will Gavin Newsom connect with black voters the way Joe Biden, Barack Obama's wingman for 8 years, did? I suppose it's possible. He has a certain Clinton-like charm, but Gavin Newsom is not the front runner. For the race has not yet properly begun. Once it does, however, do not be surprised if the Democratic electorate treats him the way they did the candidacy of another California politician who looked great on paper and was even easier on the eyes in person, Kamala Harris. Newsom has better retail political skills and a personal presentation than either her or the likes of J.B. Pritzker, whose overinflated ego aptly reflects his most notable physical quality. But he is jostling for attention and position far too early when it promises to be a marathon campaign to the point of exhausting his welcome. Gavin Newsom is going to mount a serious, well-funded presidential campaign, but as Hillary Clinton and Jeb Bush both demonstrated in different ways during their primary, money is not a voter constituency. Sometimes the dogs just won't eat the dog food, no matter how cleverly marketed it is. Just thought it was really interesting. I just, but he's saying exactly what I've said. They want Newsom because he looks the part.
Yeah, look, the aesthetics of it again, but that's not enough. It's not enough for the radical left even anymore, but it's not enough for independents. It used to be back in the day, again, when Newsom was a city councilman, I bet he was thinking, oh, man, look at my hair. Look at my hair. Look at my hair. Have you seen my hair? And then all of a sudden, it just changes. The radical left doesn't care about your hair. They care about how radical you are. And that's going to make it very interesting in 28. The primary for 28 is going to be very, very interesting to watch. I can't wait. Because, again, if you're the party, if you're the Democratic Party, what do? You have to appease that far left. You have to appease those radicals. They'll shut you down. Don't make them come after you. So you have to work really hard for them. And by the way, there is no appeasing them because their rules change by the minute. So I don't know why. I don't even know what that looks like. that we mentioned it. You know, Newsom is part of the old establishment on the left. He's not part of the new establishment. He thinks he is.
Yeah, we were making the case that anybody that was around during Biden
Yeah,
may be viewed as the old establishment.
right,
Even, Buttigieg.
right. Because Buttigieg served in the Biden administration.
Right, exactly.
Anybody who served in the Biden administration, oh, no. No, sorry.
I remember how he hemmed and hawed over the radical transgender question.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, it's unfair, but.
yeah, right.
You can't butt that issue.
You cannot. Nope. You got to own it.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at JJ Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on roadside inspections. Once a roadside inspection is completed, the officer will close it out, which involves the officer writing or typing up the report. The more the officer found during the inspection, the longer this will take. If violations were discovered, most officers, as a courtesy, will explain the violations to the driver. If there were any out-of-service violations, the officer will normally explain what must be done to get the out-of-service order lifted. Drivers need to be very attentive during this part of the inspection. The driver also needs to read and understand the complete inspection report. After receiving the inspection report, the driver has 24 hours to get the roadside inspection report to the motor carrier. If the driver will not be returning to a company facility within the next 24 hours, the driver needs to know to get it on the way to you via email, mail, or fax within 24 hours. This tip was brought to you by JJ Keller & Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
We are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. You know, the last couple of days, I mean, we've probably done it before, but the last couple of days, I know that I was on it. I said, give me one idea that the Democrats are throwing out that people like. What's the one thing that could change everything? And we look at each other and go, we don't know. And maybe some people think at that point, come on, you're going over the top. There's something that they have. There's something. And all of a sudden yesterday, and we'll relate more of this to you following the bottom of the hour, but ex-Obama aide John Lovett served as speechwriter for Barack Obama, said voters have no idea what the Democrats stand for. Democrats are saying it. We're not going over the top and, oh, come on. They're saying we don't have anything. They don't know what we stand for.
Yeah.
Except we're anti-Trump.
Exactly. We're not the opposition.
Yeah. I still look, for example, I look at some of the, and it's early polling for next year, but Republicans, and maybe the only thing holding back, if the economy was doing great right now, if the president was polling at 60% on the economy, would Republicans be up by 20% on everything?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if they would or not. I don't know.
I think there's a good chance, they'd have a huge lead.
Catch all 5 hours of the show live every night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
We are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Now, this is the best one, though.
Okay.
This is really the Fox News story. Ex-Obama aide warns Democrats can't counter Trump because voters don't know where the party stands because the party doesn't know where the party stands. Pod Save America host John Lovett, who served as a speechwriter for former President Barack Obama, said Monday that voters don't know what the Democratic Party stands for A problem, he argued, is preventing them from capitalizing on Donald Trump's vulnerabilities. Speaking with Ms. Now host. Speaking with Ms. You have to have been paying attention to the last 24 hours to understand the humor there.
Yeah.
Instead of MSNOW.
Yeah.
It's Ms. Now.
Yeah.
Speaking with Ms. Now host Nicole Wallace on her podcast, The Best People. Boy, they've got that labeled wrong.
Yeah.
Lovett argued that the biggest challenge facing Democrats is defining what they stand for. The Democrats can't define what they stand for. Think about that. That's like, all right, the NFL season's about to begin here in a couple of weeks. So, Coach, how does the football team look? Huh? Football? What's that?
Is that what we do?
We do football?
Football.
Really? That's what we do here? We're trying to figure out. And define ourselves. So you say it's football. We're going to look into that to see if we're playing football or not, because we're not really able to define what we actually do.
Yeah.
I mean, this is how stupid it is when we're trying to figure out how to define ourselves. You're a political party. The only reason that you exist is to define yourself. I suggest the Democrats learn, from themselves and the No Labels Party. Why didn't the No Labels Party succeed? We have no idea. We tried to bring everybody together. We said we're going to bring everybody together, and we'll all have our different points of view. Well, what do you stand for? Well, we're not going to tell you what we stand for, because if we tell you what we stand for, people might get upset.
Do you believe in transparency? Yes. So what do you stand for? We're not going to tell you.
And I mean, it's only a few of us on the conservative side that went, my God, the only reason you exist is to tell people where you stand on the issues, and you can't do it. Why the hell are you forming a political party?
Yeah.
I mean, we mocked the daylights out of them. They were a bunch of children. Well, we don't want to be too far left. We don't want to be too far right. We just want to be just right.
Yeah.
No,
We're just the perfect party.
We're the perfect party. All right, so what does that mean? Well, we can't tell you what that means, because if we tell you what that means, you might get upset at us for the views that we hold.
Yeah.
And what the hell are you doing? And you expect me to give you money to do what? To promote what? What's your goal? You expect me to vote for you or have an interest in you because of what? I mean, it's childish where they are. And so we all know Democrats can define themselves. They're afraid to. That's the whole point. They're making it sound like we don't know what we stand for. Yes, you do. But if you tell the American public, and if you're in unison and you really market what you stand for, you're afraid you'll get clobbered in the next election. So you're trying to figure out how to BS the American public. So it should be BS-NOW.
Well, anybody. I'm asking anybody to do this. Define the Democratic Party. Now, our listeners are going to say, crazy, insane. No. We know that. But politically define them. Define them. Where are they? They used to be the party of free stuff. Right?
Mm-hmm.
They would have told you back then the party of equality, equity. They aren't even on that anymore. You know, when you think of like Obama and redistributive rights, at some point I think you've made enough money. He actually said that out loud a number of times because it is what he believed. And remember the whole Joe the plumber thing. $250,000, that's where we draw the line, Joe. All of those things, you know, back then, they were getting the attention of people. And then, of course, you paint this big blank canvas with the words hope and change. You're handing someone or everyone a blank canvas. You fill out what you think hope and change means, and that's what it means to you. We're not going to even tell you. If you think about it, Obama and that campaign may have been responsible for the No Labels Party and everything else that can't be defined, because they started with hope and change that really can't be defined or is only defined in the minds of the individuals.
Well, the Democrats can define themselves. They know exactly where they stand. Sure they can. They're the party of open borders.
Uh-huh.
They're the party of the radical transgender movement, the misogyny of the radical transgender movement. They're the party of identity politics, judging people by groups and not individuals. They all support the vast majority. Now the voter supports it. The misogyny of the transgender movement and the racism of identity politics. They're a significant portion of them now support anti-Semitism. They hate Jews. They want massive spending without any control whatsoever on the federal deficit, and they wish to enable our enemies worldwide. That's what they stand for.
And
How
none of
do I
those
know?
you can put in and it's true, and none of them you can put into campaign mode.
Right. So what the party is asking themselves, they're not saying, look, Democrats are asking what we stand for. What Democrats are saying is, how can we market the insanity that we vote for to make it palatable for the public and the independent to vote for us?
Or how can we better lie about it?
How exactly? How can we better lie
and
about
not
what our,
actually promote what
Right.
we actually believe in?
You know,
Because you can't, politically, you can't promote any of those things and expect you're going to win.
Yeah, we said way back in 2006. Remember, it was 2006 when the Democrats won in that midterm, and we said, remember, we said, wow, they're not saying let's go to the middle anymore. They're actually promoting more what they believe. Mm-hmm. Once they got to that point, over the last 19 years, they've just gone further and further. And now they've gotten to the point where they realize it doesn't work, and now they wish to go back. They're trying to find a way to go back to the middle, but one of the problems is Trump, over the last 8 years, has co-opted a lot, especially of their fiscal populism.
Yeah.
And they don't know where to go. If they go, that part of the problem was Kamala Harris trying to embrace what Democrats used to embrace, but Trump got it. And now if they go back and that's why when she came out, nobody bought it. She killed her own campaign when she said, I'm going to be tougher on the border than Donald Trump. The border is open because of Donald Trump. You can't sell that to the American public. You and I played that ad, I think, 2 days after it was announced that she was in. Mm-hmm. And that was one of the first ads that came out. We said, no one's going to buy this, not even the left. Everybody knows it's a lie, but it's such an outrageous lie that you can't sell it to the American people. And now, remember this, too. When the Democrats used to pretend that they were going to the middle, that was pre-2006.
Right.
What exists now? The internet.
Mm-hmm.
Social media. You can't go back there anymore. And so they don't know where to go. Any issue that they wish to go to has to be more fiscally and socially conservative, and the far left won't let them do it. So you probably said it the best. They're trying to find a way to lie about what they actually believe. They know exactly where they stand on the issues. We all know exactly where they stand on the issues. Their conundrum, their cadoodling, or whatever that word was, canoodling.
Canoodling.
Their canoodling is they don't know how to lie about it. That's the problem.
Well, and that's again, even if you had the best liar in the world or best set of liars in the world, I will say they have some of the best. You can't even get away with the lie because the radical left now won't let you. They want you to own it every step of the way. Mm-hmm. It used to be we would get calls. Oh, we know Obama's lying about his position on gay marriage. We know he's lying about this. We know he's lying. We're okay with that. We know he's lying about the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare. We're okay with the lie because it gets us to this point. Well, the radicals don't want that. You need to own it every step of the way. That's part of why they don't know how to lie anymore. Look, Kamala Harris was a joke from the get-go. It was not going to work. And her launching a campaign with, I'm stronger on the border than Donald Trump? Shut up. Nobody buys that for a moment. But beyond that, it wouldn't matter. Who's the perfect person to sell it for the radicals? Because even AOC got caught up in her own thing with her own. She went back to in her district a meeting, and they were calling her out. They've called her out on a number of things because of identity politics and them all believing that they're the boss. She says it on a frequent basis. I'm the boss. I'm the boss. Well, it's kind of like Occupy Wall Street. Well, none of us can speak for it. None of us can, except with this, they all want their own ego to carry everything, so nobody gets to be the leader. That's where they are. Gavin Newsom thinks he's going to get it done. Sorry, you can't fake it anymore. You've got to be radical, or the radicals are going to shut you down. I don't know how they get it done. I don't know what they promote. I don't know what they populate those ads with. The only thing you'll get away with is Trump is bad, things are bad, and they're bad because of Trump, and blame Trump, because you can't put anything in it that you're promoting that you're going to do, because it will never work.
Well, they did they did up the ante to Trump as Satan.
Yeah.
A couple of weeks ago.
Right.
And we said, okay, they got to go beyond Hitler.
Right.
I don't think it's going to be very effective, though.
No.
In fact, I haven't heard them promoted since I heard them that one time.
Well,
someone came out, I forgot who it was, came out and said, anyway, Satan. It's like, okay, well, you can't get any worse than Satan.
Well, but because if they do that, they know they can't do that for long, because then they have to acknowledge there's a God.
Yeah, as we said, yes.
Yeah. So that
and
won't
since they boo God, then they must be cheering Satan.
Right.
So they have a canoodling there too, or conundrum.
Yeah, conundrum. Yes,
I know. I'm just having fun. 866-90 Red High.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
We are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, because our show ends in an hour, and after our show ends, our show becomes our podcast on our Red Eye Radio app, and so you can listen to any part of the show that you wish to do. And if for some reason you can't listen to one of our great radio stations overnight, which is our preferred way, well, you can listen on our app as we stream all 5 hours live on our Red Eye Radio app.
We thought about changing our name to RER Now, but we think not. Not do that. But we are available now, which is any now that happens. If you say, okay, what about now? The answer is yes. Either podcast or live, we're here for you. See?
RER Now.
RER Now.
Oh, man, they got brutalized yesterday. Ms. Now is the best. We're going to be using that a lot.
Oh, my gosh, that's great. I love that. I just love that.
And the banner is pretty dull, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. Well, maybe the budget's just not quite there. I mean, come on. You got to do something better than that. Wow.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.